Double A and him become best friends, right? So Conrad comes into the cell the next morning after Boo Boo's dumping this music. Flying in there, yo, dude, you bumping your music all night? This is at breakfast, mind you. Doors are just cracking. Double A's in the same stretch of cells. They're actually 2 or 3 cells apart. So Double A's walking by as Conrad's in that cell. Boom, Boo Boo smashes him. Bam! Splits his ear in half. Fucking knocks him out cold. Double A sees this. So Aaron Hernandez sees this. Runs in off the tier. Boo Boo's on the rec deck. When he comes in, there's all these white dudes fighting. The Bloods. And he's like, oh shit. So he runs up to the first blood he sees. He was playing basketball the whole rec. He told me that when he came off the rec deck, he was so winded. He felt like he couldn't even breathe, right? So he comes in off the rec deck. He's playing ball. And he sees Easy, this big blood dude, bro, right? And he's like, yo, Easy, what's up, bro? He's like, square up. So him and Easy start fighting. Welcome back to the W Number. Tonight, I got a fire story, man, about another dude, heavy hitter, man. His name was Boo Boo. That's what everybody knew him by, but his real name was Jason Nobles. Fall River kid from Dover Street. He was a Dover boy. Grew up on the streets of Fall River. And he really carried that swag about him, man. Everywhere he went, that was him. Fall River, you know? We're going to get into his whole life, though. This dude, man, he's been through Walpole. He's been through the Max. You know, he's done his time. He's put in a lot of work. And I did a lot of time with him. And that's what this whole month is doing time with so-and-so. I first met Boo Boo in N2. But before I ever met him, I was in L2. And there was, you know, his reputation was everywhere. So everywhere you go, you know, you hear Boo Boo's name. I was over there with this kid named Chris Shavink, Nick Lynch, Richie G, a bunch of heavy hitters, dudes that have been around forever, guys that everybody pretty much knows about, solid white dudes, bro, right? So we're all over there, and there's this kid over there named Danny. Now, the case, I looked it up, right? So they got into a brawl on the streets. Danny got stabbed. And, you know, Boo Boo, I think, was the one who stabbed. The word was that Danny snitched. And they didn't want him up there, right? So Boo Boo was on a different block. We were all over there in L2. Boo Boo never sent word over or nothing, but we knew, like, this is the kid Danny. Like, this is the kid who snitched on Boo Boo. They came to me. They were like, look it, bro, you're on that side of the tier. Like, they were all on the low side, and this kid was with me on the high side. There was only one other white kid that we fucked with that was over there with me, and so they asked me, like, look it, you're over there, bro. This is the kid that snitched on Boo Boo, bro. Like, we need to get him taken out. Like, somebody's got to take him out. So I'm like, wow. I'm like, I really don't know Boo Boo like that, but off the strength that he's a snitch, I'll do it, right? Just let me go to my visit, and as soon as I come back from my visit, I'm gonna take care of it. And he's like, okay, we're gonna have this kid Mikey ride out with you. I said, okay, you can have Mikey ride out. I'll go with Mikey. We'll do it, right? So he's like, okay, cool. Now the other kid Mikey's there. He knows what's going on. He knows we're just gonna go to the visit and to wait for me until I come back. So I go to the visit. I get a good visit in. My mother comes to see me. Blah blah. I come back, I'm feeling all right, you know, got a good visit, got a little taste of home, and I get back to the block. I'm talking to my man Nick, because Nick was one of my best friends. He was like a brother to me. Me and him were cellies several times. Same thing with Boo Boo. Me and him were cellies twice, so I'm going to get into all that, right? This kid, without telling me, right, never said nothing to me. I'm talking to Nick. I just walked back in the block for my visit, and I hear the feet squeaking. Squeak, 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 squeak. And I can hear thumping, and you know the sound of flesh when it's being punched. That smack, that heavy smack sound, right? So I hear this going on, and I look over and I look up to where the kid Danny lived. The kid Mike went already in there and just started doing it without me. He didn't wait for me. Now, what happened when I was gone at the visit is my man Shavink gave the kid a bean. He gave him a Klonopin, and he was already drinking. We were all already drinking, so he was drunk and taking beans, and he got beaned out drunk and thought he was Superman, ran right in that cell, tried to hook off on Danny. What happened? Danny turns around, right? Sees this kid trying to swing a cribbage board at his head, takes the cribbage board from him, knocks him out, and drags him out onto the tier and starts booting him like thorough kicks where his midsection was like coming up off the ground and laying him back on the ground. And he's going, oh, you want to suck on me, bitch? This is what happens. Boom, kicking him, stomping him, and all that shit, right? And I'm like, oh, shit. And I'm looking at Nick like, damn, you supposed to wait for me. So I'm like, should I go up there and help him now? Like, it's already going. You know what I mean? It's already on, and the kid basically just won this fight right here. So I'm just like, should I go even help him now? Like, it's already going. So he's like, yeah, man, go. So I jet over to the bottom of the stairs, but by the time I get to the bottom of the stairs, the COs are already coming in, the response for that call, and they literally are so thick, they're taking up the whole stairs. There's no point in even trying to run up above them, right in front of them, running in front of them like right on my heels, and then trying to get a punch in or something like that. So I was just like, whatever, man. That shit sucked. He should have waited for me, right? Whatever, man. So time goes by, a couple years. My boy Lance Correa, right? This kid's another Fall River kid. Serious dude. God rest his soul. He was murdered in Fall River with a hammer to the back of the head. Man, not a good way to go. But Lance was a solid dude, bro. Been in Walpole, did some serious time. Always been known as a serious ass dude, bro. Like one of those real ass Fall River dudes that you knew back in the day in the county, which made Dartmouth County and Bristol County one of those places that was spoken about with respect, because these dudes were serious ass dudes, bro. A lot of those Bristol County dudes that came, they called it mini Walpole, Dartmouth County back in the day, and that was Boo Boo's County. And all these guys, Rambo, a lot of these guys that like come up from Dartmouth County, Bristol County from that era were serious dudes. Mind you, a lot of them were addicted to drugs very badly, and Boo Boo was no exception to that rule. And I'm going to get into his drug addiction, but Boo Boo was a whole different animal. Boo Boo was nothing nice, right? This dude was a beast. He was absolutely fearless. He did not care. It was his way or the highway with basically anybody he came across, and he was addicted to drugs. He was a junkie, right? Which eventually brought him to the culmination of this story. And I'm not going to give you any giveaways. This kid gets called into the cell by Lance. Now they're on H2, an orientation unit, and Danny's thinking he got the dub. You know, he answered the call with Boo Boo, and he won. You know, he came out on top. Nope. Right? So Lance calls him to the cell. He says, yo, what's up, bro? You're from Fall River. Like, they knew each other from the streets. I don't know how Danny didn't know, like, this was coming, because Lance is a Dover boy, and he's Boo Boo's good friend, and fucking, bro, he's like, you want to line a welly? So Danny's like, sure. He goes down to sniff the welly. Lance comes up, bam, hits him good, rocks him, puts him in between the toilet and the wall, and just beats on him, dude, like almost kills him, puts him out, puts him to sleep, and just plays with his face, like beat the brakes off of this kid bad. And so therefore he did not get the better of anybody. He just took a vicious loss, probably way worse than what he did to that kid Mikey. And so Lance probably, with all due respect, was trying to put his lights out, you know what I mean, because he beat him so badly like that, right? But no, that's just the type of weight Boo Boo's name carried. If you disrespect Boo Boo, Boo Boo's friends are gonna go to war for him, right? What I first noticed about Boo Boo, when I first met Boo Boo, was in N2 in Sousa Baranowski Correctional Center in Shirley, Mass. I got moved over there before him or after him. I can't really remember, but I just remember being on the basketball court and seeing him walk out there. I was out there playing basketball with this other white kid named Whitey Hughes from Worcester. I'm out there playing basketball with them and shit. And this is N2 back in when it was rocking. This is a real prison at the time. Like, so he comes out on the rec deck, and I had been talking about what happened with this CO. I had gotten to a fight with this CO in the hallway, and this kid, like, I had some stuff missing from my cell, and he kind of vouched for the kid who was my cellie, saying that he probably wouldn't steal nothing out of my cell and shit, right? So I could probably get a message to him or something like that, blah, blah. But what I noticed about him was his look, his appearance. He had a scar. Some people call him Scarface and everything, right? Big scar. He got it from a Puerto Rican in Walpole when he was on the phone. Sorry, I don't know if, yeah, it was Walpole. He told me this story. So he's on the phone in Walpole, and he had just had some words with this kid, a Puerto Rican dude or whatever, and the dude came up behind him and hit him with a razor in the face, cut his whole shit, dude, right? He had a big scar on his face, and it's one of the first things I noticed about him because it's like a big scar across his whole face. And it makes him have this, like, he's got these ice blue eyes, like, honey blonde type curlyish hair, and a stocky, decent sized build with some tattoos. He's got sleeves on both of his arms. Actually, at this time, he had only sleeves on one arm, and in his other arm, he was finishing it. And I just remember thinking, like, wow, this dude looks like a serious dude, bro. Like, he didn't look like someone who played around, bro. And he looked right through you. He had, like, this piercing look to him, like, fearless look. You could tell this dude is a serious dude. He's no one to play with. So I ended up getting lugged from N2 shortly after. I'm not sure exactly what for, I forget. But Boo Boo stayed on the block, right? This is when an infamous brawl happens. Right? So Boo Boo, Tommy Boys, Sean Haggerty, and a few other dudes, right? I even forget the kid's name who it actually started with, but it all started with this white dude. He went to take a shower. He got out of the shower and went back to his cell. When he was in his cell, he was in his towel, so he's naked, and one of the young blood kids, he was ignorant, bro. Like, he just got up there and he didn't really know much about time like that. I know exactly who he is. He started a few big fights after this situation too, which I didn't like because he was always starting trouble, right? But he says something to the white dude like, yo, why are you naked, man? I don't want to see your dick, blah, blah. Like, starts getting brawled with him. So the kid comes out to the door of his cell like, yo, I'm in my own fucking cell in a towel, like, mind your business type shit. And the dude knocks him out, suckers him. Because honestly, only a sucker gets suckered. But because he had words with him, he shouldn't have never, took his eyes off him, right? Or he should have put his sneakers on before he talked to him. But he just gets knocked out, bro. Dude hits him up, knocks him out. So dudes start jumping in right off the rip. Tommy Boys, couple other people, couple bloods jump in. And before you know it, it's like a 6-on-7. White dudes versus bloods. Boo Boo's on the rec deck. When he comes in, there's all these white dudes fighting, the bloods. And he's like, oh shit. So he runs up to the first blood he sees. He was playing basketball the whole rec. He told me that when he came off the rec deck, he was so winded, he felt like he couldn't even breathe, right? So he comes in off the rec deck, he's playing ball, and he sees Easy, this big blood dude, bro, right? And he's like, yo, Easy, what's up, bro? He's like, square up. So him and Easy start fighting. Easy is the biggest, quite honestly, he's the biggest black dude I ever met in my life. He's a big, tall, black kid. He's wiry with hands, and he's a respected ass dude, bro. At this time, he was real young, though. He was a young buck. I remember this is like right around the time Easy first came in, man. Wow. They start squaring up. They're fighting, bro. Easy keeps on getting the better of him. Boo Boo will hit the ground, get up, and start fighting again. He wants to win so bad. He did that 4 times, allegedly, right? And at the 4th time, he got up and was just like, you know what? The cops were coming in to break up the fight. He gave him daps. And just, you know what? That was it. He gave him that, bro, right? That was respect right there because he gave it his all and he lost, bro, right? And Boo Boo's not one to give up, right? Boo Boo used to date Pauly D's girlfriend, right? So Pauly D's ex-girlfriend, Boo Boo bagged her and actually was dating her. Right? Like, literally, when I was cellies with Boo Boo, he used to write letters back and forth with Samantha, bro. Like, that was his girl. So, and because of that, like, he had interactions, I guess, with Pauly D. Sometimes, like, dude was mad at him, talk shit or something. But, like, Boo Boo's moved downstairs at one point, right? This was speaking towards Boo Boo's drug addiction. Boo Boo was moved downstairs. He was with this kid, Movi. Just a bunch of white kids, man. All these young white kids that were down there, bro, right? And we don't usually go down to the Chow Hall blocks, but they had moved a bunch of us down there. I guess it was an experiment. But they were getting drugs. Now, Moby, God rest his soul, he's dead, but he was getting packages. So he's getting packages. Moby's got needles, he's got drugs, got all that shit, right? So Boo Boo, Moby goes out, he gets a package, comes back, he's got his package, he wants to do something. So he's like, I'm going to do something first, blah, blah, blah. Boo Boo's like, no. He comes down, he's got the works. So he tells Boo Boo, like, let me get my works. I want to go do some shit. He knows Moby just got some shit. And he's like, no. He's like, let me get mine first. He's like, give me my shit first. He's like, bro, it's my package. He's like, my shit. He's like, I want to do it first. He's like, nah. Right? So, long story short, Moby ends up giving in, right? He lets Boo Boo go first. And he's like, nah, fuck you. He's getting real arrogant. he's getting mad because he can't do his shit. He's doing his shit, and Moby comes in and he's like, bro, I'm trying to do my shit. He's like, what's up, boo-boo? He's like, this is my mule, my package, my drugs. He's like, let me get my shit. And he's like, you could do your shit after. Boo-boo gets up and just starts lighting Moby up. Beats him up so bad, it's got him in between the bed and the wall. Kevin Blood's like, yo, Boo-boo, chill the fuck out, bro. He's trying to break him up and shit. And for a long time, Boo-boo and Kevin had beef because he said he was taking Moby's side over his. And that wasn't true. It was just, they were all friends and he's fighting over this shit, bro. And he was wrong, right? So anyways, Kevin was a good kid too. Kevin's a great ass dude. Maybe someone, I'll definitely someone that I want to get on my show. So if you're watching Kevin, shout out, come on up, bro. I already know you're watching my channel. Anyway, so that situation crazy. I remember hearing about it and going, wow, he's got an addiction, bro. He's bad with the drugs. Very bad with the drugs. But other than that, he was a fearless warrior, bro. He had a heart of steel. Like, he would fight anybody, right? So he gets lugged for the Moby thing. He ends up upstairs. He goes to N2 again. And we're all up there bidding. So I wasn't on N2 at this time. I think I was on P2, right? I was on P2. And he's over there with a kid named Timmy Cohane. God rest his soul. Timmy Cohane is another one who passed away. Straight hustler. A white dude who hustled. He made money. He was about his bread. But that was really all Timmy Cohane was about. He was just about his paper. He liked getting his money. He ran a store. He sold his little drugs and shit. But they were all in the cell one day and Boo Boo was drinking. And I think this is one of the things that led up to Boo Boo getting on the wagon and not drinking anymore. Because Boo Boo was just wild, bro. He was really bad. When he drank, he wanted to fight. Even when he didn't drink, he wanted to fight. So when he drank, it was even worse. But he's drinking, and they were all up in I think it was Sweeney's cell. And they were all chilling. It was him, his kid Chad, Timmy, and Boo Boo, and whoever else, right? We all called Chad Baby Girl. Shout out to Baby Girl. Chad, great dude. He got a life sentence when one of my brothers, Mikey Freeman, ended up taking another man's life for shutting a curtain by accident and didn't even know that a murder was going to take place. He just shut a curtain, seeing, what any solid con would do, and ended up catching a life sentence for it. But Baby Girl at the time, he was only doing a skid bid and going home. He was doing 10 years, I think, and then going home. And he was getting close to the end at this point. I think he had like 4 years or 5 years left. Yeah, like halfway through his bid. Timmy Cohane and Baby Girl hang out all the time. He hears all the boyos calling Chad Baby Girl. So they're in there and Boo Boo's drunk and he's calling Chad Baby Girl. Timmy goes, he says to Chad, he says, you're going to let him call you Baby Girl? He's like, that's like calling you a bitch. He's like, don't let him call you Baby Girl, bro. He starts getting on him like that. Boo Boo goes, yo, who the fuck are you? He's like, you're a fucking bitch. He's like, he's like, don't be fucking butting your head in my business, bro. That's my boy. And he's like, what do you think he is? You think he's a bitch, bro? You're a bitch. He's like, that's my boy, bro. He's like, you calling him a bitch right now? He's like, let's fucking go, bro. So he wants to fight Timmy now, right? So him and Timmy get it in. Now, word is that it was a good fucking fight, but Timmy got the better of Boo Boo. So Boo Boo wants to go again. He's like, fuck that. So they fight again. And I guess Timmy got the better of Boo Boo. He wants to go again. The doors they get locked in, and they come around, and I don't know what it was that happened, but they ended up doing knuckle checks and seeing that it was because of a whole nother incident. Something else altogether happened. Someone had like a ripped shirt or something like that, and it wasn't even to do with this situation or something, and they did knuckle checks just to see, and Boo Boo just happened to have just gotten that fight, and Timmy too, and they both had marks on them, and so they took them and lugged them, right? That was when I really realized, like, wow, Boo Boo doesn't give a fuck. Like, he's not gonna, if he's losing, he's gonna keep fighting and fighting and fighting. And I remember hearing the story about him fighting the kid in Walpole. He was belligerent and drunk, and he was acting up. The dude tried to stab him. So Boo Boo takes the knife from him, knocks him out, beats him up really, really bad, and puts his arm up on the bed while he's knocked out and on the ground and jumps on it to break his arms in half. Like, he beat this kid. I think his name was Brendan, I want to say. But he beat him so bad. Broke his arms and shit. Like, and I just remember hearing that. And, You know, that's the type of shit that'll put fear in a motherfucker. You know what I mean? Like, those are the type of beatings people hear about, and they're like, damn. And I'm not going to say, like, it didn't make me think, like, yo, this kid's a savage. Like, he will go above and beyond if he's winning that fight, and he's one of them that will go until he wins, you know? And so that's what people respected Boo Boo, is that they knew he would fight, bro, right? Like, 4/5, things start heating up between Dave Weichel, the infamous South Boston gangster who was mixed in with Whitey Bulger, and he was basically a mafia hitman. Him and his brother Freddie Weichel. Freddie, who's out now, got a big lawsuit on the state. He's been in the news recently, but these dudes are straight up gangsters, bro, savages, bro, and like they're in books. Dave Weichel's in books, Freddie's in books. You know, along with all the other guys from the Winter Hill Gang and, you know, South Boston at that time. This is one of those dudes from South Boston at the time of Whitey Bulger. He was a killer, and he was a Southie guy. But all the other Southie guys were on the south side of the prison. For whatever reason, Dave Weichel was on the north side with all of us. He got along with us, for the most part. But because he was from Southie, there was some animosity bubbling underneath the surface, right? I believe he always secretly sided with the Southie guys, but he resided with the Boyos. And it wasn't like he was a chump or he was a sellout to the Southie guys, because he's a serious dude. He's a killer. He got into one of the most serious stabbings in the Max with him and Frankie Huggins. He had a heart. He got knocked out before, but he had a heart, right? Like, the dude was a serious dude, bro. But anyways, things were starting to heat up between him and Jerry. The Jerry that I just did a video about, Jerry Sullivan, a Boyo. Because things were heating up between Jerry and him, there had been all these movements going on with the Boyos. So everything that was happening, people were getting moved on. There was shit happening. That gym fight just happened. Jerry was in that gym fight. I think Boo Boo had missed the gym fight. Boo Boo wasn't in the gym fight. Like, all these things were happening. So the administration was starting to catch wind of, like, just how much the Boyos were holding sway. We had the packages coming in. We were making moves. We were pushing up on other packages. You know, we were doing our thing, bro, right? I was in P2, and dudes come to me. Boo Boo had just got moved over there after the shit with Timmy Cohane, and I was in P2, and dudes come to me, and they're like, yo, none of us are allowed to go up to church anymore. They had taken all the Boyos off the church list because we had serious beef with the Southie dudes. We had kept on moving. Every time we saw Southie guys in the orientation unit, we would move on them, right? But I wasn't part of that whole thing. Like, I didn't have no beef with the Southie guys. I wasn't even a Boyo yet at this time when all this was going on. So I was just riding with them, and they had a lot of respect for me, and I fuck with dudes, right? So they come to me, Boo Boo and my friend Nick and Chris Shavink and all these guys, and they're like, yo, we can't go to church, so none of us can get this dude. None of us can get at this dude, Dave. We need someone that can go up there. So Baby Girl was already supposed to go up there and do it, but dudes didn't believe that Baby Girl could even handle that shit. So they came to somebody they knew could fight and was like, look, can you go up there with him? Because he was just about to become a Boyo, and he was trying to put in work to be a Boyo. Dudes weren't letting him in yet. They wanted to see that he actually had what it takes to be a warrior and not just one of the boys, right? Like, it's not everybody gets to be a Boyo. Even if you hang with us tough, doesn't mean you're a Boyo. It just means you're a good friend. Boyo is somebody that's a warrior too. You have to be a warrior, bro, to be a Boyo. So we didn't know if Baby Girl had it in him like that yet. So they wanted me to go up there to the church and take care of Dave Weichel. And so I'm like, okay, so Sunday comes around. We're supposed to go up there and move on this dude. I'm ready to go. And I talked to Baby Girl. Baby Girl was an N2 at the time, and he was ready to go too. I go over, I talk to Boo Boo, and Boo Boo was like, yo, I thank you. I appreciate you for doing this, bro. He's like, out of anybody, he's like, I think you're probably the only one that can take care of this situation correctly. He's like, and I trust you can actually do it. He's like, I don't think that Chad can, so that's the reason why, we approached you on situation. And I'm pretty sure dudes was trying to recruit me at this time for the Boyos, but either way, I was ready to do it just out of friendship. Nick Lynch was my cellie at the time. He was a great dude, so I said, yeah, let's do it, bro. Let's rock out. But right before this happened, the Ips come down to the block and they pull Jerry in the office. And there had been a lot of talk about, them taking him out of the equation because of his influence and how much influence he had with the white dudes, right? So they pull Jerry Sullivan in the office and they tell him, look if anything happens, if anybody else gets hurt by your boys, by anybody that's a boyo, and even though Jerry really isn't the leader of anything, dudes listen to him. So because he had influence, they marked him as the shot caller, and anything that happens with us, he's now going to DDU. And he had just gone back and forth to DDU, year at a time, 2 years at a time, a year at a time, all for hits. Other people doing other things to other people. And they would keep on putting him in DDU. The administration hated Jerry because they just thought he was calling hits, right? They nixed it. Guys nixed it. They said, look, we can't have this happen because if so, they're going to ship Jerry out of state. They told Jerry if anything else happened, they're shipping him out of state. So we didn't do that. Other shit ended up happening, and they didn't ship Jerry out of state because out of state declined him for mental health purposes. Anybody who's ever had a history of mental health, it's very hard to get shipped out of state. So they declined to ship him out of state anyways, right? But that didn't happen that day because of that. After that shit with Jave Weichel, I get into a beef with this kid Mikey from Worcester in the gym. And that shit was crazy, right? So I get lugged after that fight with him. And I end up becoming cellies with Boo Boo in P2, like right before I went home on my first bid. Now, me and him have a whole second bid together, and the second bid is when Aaron Hernandez comes into the picture. Now, Aaron Hernandez and Boo Boo were best friends, right? Aaron Hernandez and Boo Boo literally hit it off. They knew each other through a separate acquaintance on the streets who had, mentioned it to Aaron Hernandez saying, this kid Jason Nobles is up there. You should look for him. It's blah, blah, blah's boyfriend or friend or whatever. And so he did. So Aaron meets Jason Nobles, Boo Boo, in Michael 1 in orientation unit, right? And this is when I come back on my second bid. So when Aaron meets Double A on Michael 1, I go out to the rec deck. I'm on N2 at this time. I was up there with my brother and shit, and we were on N2. So I go out, and he's down there with Paul Driscoll and Scotty Wong and Boo Boo and a couple other people. But Double A's down there chilling and shit. But I go out to the rec deck, and they were on the other side of the rec, and Boo Boo was a runner down there in Michael 1 at the time. So I go down there, and I'm talking to Boo Boo off the rec deck, and I'm asking Boo Boo, what's up? Because I didn't know how close they were yet. I just heard that they were down there hanging tough and that they were becoming good friends. And, they were holding Aaron down there forever when he first got up there due to gang ties. The fact that he was a superstar, they didn't know what to do with him. So they had him in the orientation unit forever, right? During this time is the time where you see him on the news where he's going to court, and they got him on the news for getting a gang tattoo on his arm. That was down there in M1. He got the tattoo from this Mexican dude who did this tattoo right here on my arm. He did this tattoo right here. But he would tattoo only the heavy hitters, right? And so he tattooed me, Boo Boo, Double A, Jerry, you know what I mean? All guys that, their name rang bells, and he wouldn't charge us nothing. He just wanted his name, his artwork to be on dudes like us, right? So he tattoos that blood star or whatever on Double A, and he's in the news, right? So they keep on getting lugged. Double A keeps getting lugged and going back to M1, and Boo Boo and him are becoming real close. I was asking Boo Boo, hey, does he still have money like that? Is he still rich? Because I'm thinking he's maybe a potential victim, and that's why Boo Boo is, pushing up on him or something. I didn't know they were actual friends. But in all actuality, when I asked him that, he said, nah, man, he's good, bro. He's he's not a victim. He's a serious dude. And so I was oh, okay. And from that point forward, I knew, this is different. It's not a victim situation. This is they're actual friends. And once I heard that they had ties in the street, I was oh, okay, makes sense. So one day, This dude Conrad, right? He's the property worker. He's a convict. He's a black dude, bald head, kind of stocky dude, right? He was seen walking around in a pair of Driscoll sneakers or something like that and approached on it. And there was some friction between him and us already, right? He was the only guy who could get our stuff through property. So if we had like illegal stuff sent into the prison through the mail, it would go to property. And this dude Conrad would be able to grab it and then put it in the property and send it out to us if we paid him a good amount of money. So we were getting street sneakers and chains, whatever. That's how you get it. But this dude, he's fucking up the game, stealing shit and doing some fuck shit, right? But he knows he's a pivot point, so we need him, right? So he thought. So Boo Boo's in his cell one night, bumping the music, bumping it, thumping it, loud. And he used to do it when we were cellies too, because he would say, fuck it, I want to do it. He wanted people to be afraid to say something. Like, that's what I think he wanted. He wanted to see if people were afraid to say something, because he would push the envelope with a lot of people. Double A and him become best friends, right? So Conrad comes into the cell the next morning after Boo Boo's dumping this music. Flying in there, yo, dude, you bumping your music all night? This is at breakfast, mind you. Doors are just cracking. Double A's in the same stretch of cells. They're actually 2 or 3 cells apart. So Double A's walking by as Conrad's in that cell. Boom, Boo Boo smashes him. Bam! Splits his ear in half. Fucking knocks him out cold. Double A sees this. So Aaron Hernandez sees this. Runs in off the tier and boots Conrad in the stomach. And now Boo Boo and Double A are jumping this dumbass, right? So they get away with it at first, right? Boom, Conrad's all busted up. So they got to tape him up. Something happens and they get in trouble for it. And now Boo Boo, Jason Nobles, and Aaron Hernandez are both getting lugged together for this fight. They go to the hole, and I'm assuming they got a ticket that states only their own name. So you can't use the ticket as like a group ticket like this person, and this person. They only state your name and the victim. No matter who was your co-defendant, they don't state your co-defendant like, you know, so-and-so and so-and-so jumped on so-and-so. They only say so-and-so on this date and time was seen throwing close fences punches against this person, so-and-so. So you can't say like, oh, he has a ticket with them, but like he does. They got a ticket together for jumping the Kid Conrad, right? So Boo Boo goes to the hole. Aaron goes to the hole. It's in the news. What? They come out of the hole. Now, Boo Boo comes out. Double A comes out of the hole first. Right as I'm coming out of the hole for a fight up in N2 with the Latin King kid there. Where I put him on a stretcher for stealing from me, right? I made a video on that, so make sure you go check that out. I just got into a beef with this dude, and I was down there on M1, and Double A comes into the block. Double A comes into the block, and I hear him coming on the block, so I called him over to the door. I was like, yo, Double A, he was just getting his stuff and coming in from the hole, so the cops are on his back trying to get him to go in the cell and close the door behind him. But I called him over the door. I'm like, yo. And so he's at the door. And I'm like, what's up, bro? I heard you were, Boo Boo's friend and shit. Like, I'm Boo Boo's friend. So I just wanted to say hello and introduce myself. And I was the person calling down one day about you. So here's some deuce and whatever, bro. Right? He just got out of the hole. So I gave him a couple of squares of deuce to smoke and get right. He goes up, comes down at dinner time when they open the doors at dinner time. Before rec, and he's like, yo, I don't have batteries. So I'm like, oh shit. So I give him the batteries. He goes up, smokes that shit. We come out, we're kicking it, vibing. He's asking me how I know Boo Boo and all that shit. And so I'm just telling him blah blah blah. And so me and him end up playing basketball together, me and Aaron. Just off the strength, me and him are chilling off the strength that he's Boo Boo's boy. Now, everybody who's Boo Boo's friend now is Aaron's friend. So, off the strength of Boo Boo, Aaron Hernandez is now in our circle. Like, no bullshit. Aaron was part of our crew, basically. He wouldn't be down for the bullshit, like if a fight popped off, but he was hanging with all of us, right? Hanging tough. I played Double A in a game of basketball, but we played 3 games, and out of 3 games, he beat us twice, and I beat him once. So it was 3-on-3, and me and him were playing man, but I ended up, I won a game. And I was playing hard. I scored the winning point, and I grabbed the ball, and I slammed it on the ground, and I was like, I just beat Double A. He was so tight. He didn't even say nothing. He just looked at me. He just walked around in a circle on the rec deck and walked off the rec deck. He was tight. After a couple of, like, 2 weeks go by, they actually moved Double A to P1. Boom. Right after he gets moved to P1, Boo Boo comes down out of the hole. So when Boo Boo comes down out of the hole, he comes over. He was living with my friend Nate Rosemore. Anyways, long story short, they end up telling him he's going to P1, but the only way they can move him to P1 is if I take a cellmate and go with him. Because I had just beat up one of my cellmates, and I kicked another one out, and they were just getting tired of it. They're like, damn, kid, like, I didn't want a cellmate, and they knew it. So the only way to do it was to get us to agree to be cellmates, me and my friend. So he was like, Maddie, you're being my cellmate, right? So I'm thinking I was already cellmates with him on my last bid, but it was for a short amount of time, and we were high every day. So I'm thinking, we'll just go over there and try to have a good time, right? We go over there. We're cellies for a little while. Double A was over there with us. So, we was always chilling every day. Double A would be at the door. Boo Boo would be talking to him, and I'd be sitting there, and we'd all be chilling and talking. When we come out for rec, Boo Boo would go over to Double A's door, talk to him at his door, or get on the phone, or do whatever. But Boo Boo was a terrible celly, but he's a great friend. Me and him had good times all the time. We would drink all day and have a good time. And I remember we used to sit in there and play chess and vibe and shit. And I remember one night he's like, man, I'm actually having a really good time, bro. And I was like, I'm glad, bro, because he'd be so uptight sometimes, man. Like, he was in the midst of all these different things, so like getting packages and all this shit. Like, so I remember one time, way before this, on my first bid, speaking about Boo Boo and getting packages and shit, and just speaking to the seriousness of who he is. And now we're cellies and we're with Double A, but I'm going to tell you a little flashback story real quick. So Boo Boo was getting packages with Shavink and all these other dudes. All the boyos were getting packages, making moves and shit. This dude Hondu. So Hondu's bringing it in. Hondu, he's cutting the 8 milligram Suboxone strips in half because no one's seen them before. So he knows he could sell half of a 8 milligram Suboxone strip, still says 8 milligrams on it in a couple places. So he cuts them in half, and he's sending over half strips, saying they're whole strips, and keeping more. He's keeping the whole half of the pack because you split the pack in half in the first place, and then he's keeping half of their half of the pack. So I get a pack one day. I'm in N2, and I get some Suboxones one day, right? And my boy Nick is over there with me. And Nick's like, yo, Maddie, can I get an eighth? And I'll throw you an eighth back when we get ours. And so I'm like, yeah, no problem. So I give him an eighth. And I go back in my cell. I do mine. I come back out. And he calls me over. He's like, yo, Maddie. He's trying to give me half of what I gave him back. And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, no, I only wanted an eighth. He's like, here, you can have the other part back. And I'm like, that's what I gave you, is I gave you an eighth. And he's like, no. He's like, you gave me a quarter. I said, no, I gave you an eighth. He's like, Maddie, you gave me a quarter. He's like, you gave me more. You gave me double what I asked for. I said, no, bro, I gave you an eighth. That's an eighth. He said, this is an eighth. He said, show me what you got it from. I said, I bought a half a strip, and I cut it in 4 pieces. Because, you take a whole strip, you break it in half. Then you take the half a strip, and you break it in half. Then you take the half a strip, and you break it in half. So you take a whole strip, and you break it in 8 pieces. But I took a half a strip, which me and my boy got a strip, split it in half and half. I took my half, broke it in 4 pieces, gave him an eighth of a strip. So, long story short, he goes, oh, okay. Next thing I know, my boy Shavink and Kevin Plud are fucking hopping on Hondu because he's been burning dudes for a grip. Bro, they went in there and smashed Hondu out so bad. Shavink comes out of there beating his chest like this. Oh, covered in blood. Come on, bro, straight warrior savage, bro. I love Shavink, bro, right? That was who Boo Boo was, bro. Boo Boo ends up, we do a lot of time together, me, Double A, and Boo Boo. Boo Boo ends up smoking K2. Me and him, when we were cellies, we started getting this shit. The paper K2. Boo Boo had Bobby in a headlock at the time. He was sending him over this shit called Redline. And it was super fire, bro. Like, so fire, you could barely do it without having a panic attack and a straight episode. You're hallucinating and fucking all that, right? Me and Boo Boo are smoking it from morning until night. I'm almost like losing my mind. One day we woke up and we smoked some, and we both looked at each other, and he goes, it's way too early. And I was like, yo, way too early. It's like you smoke it and you have like an instant sense of fear and panic for whatever reason. You're like, oh, I don't know why I want to do it, but I just want to be afraid. Like, yo, this shit is so fucking crazy, right? Bro, this is what Boo Boo's story turned into. And it's super sad because Boo Boo, the warrior, fearless warrior in Walpole back in the day, just stabbing dudes over and over. Now, Boo Boo stabbed many motherfuckers. He's beat up many dudes, bro. This is just my time with him that I'm telling you about. But, like, he loved to fight, bro. This is a real ass dude, bro. Warrior. Really let guys know, like, this is where it's come to. The K2 has become so addicting, so much like crack that it's like getting like a street drug. Guys are starting to be shit, crazy over this shit. Now, Boo Boo was never one to do any sneaky shit. He will rob you and take it to your face, and he will still do that. Boo Boo was a scary kid when he was high like that, bro, right? But he ends up smoking so much, bro, right? I'm in DDU one day. I'm running, doing burpees, working out heavy. Boo Boo calls me over to the gate while I'm running. He tells me, bro, I only care about one person. I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But he's like, I only care about one person, man. He's like, God. He's like, do you read the Bible? I said, nah, man. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He's like, bro, you should. He's like, it's a real shame you don't. I said, okay. Sleep. There's no fucking way in hell this kid's being serious. But sure enough, he dropped the boyos. He doesn't want to be a boyo no more. He believed in Jesus. But he remained solid. I mean, like, it wasn't like nothing. He did some dirty shit. He debriefed. He just told dudes, like, I'm all set. God is my number one. And he said he had an epiphany. He was smoking 10 stamps. 10 large stamps, like mailing stamp size pieces of K2. Now, I'm talking about you could smoke a fingernail sliver of K2 and be gone, right? So he's smoking slivers of K2. But this kid's smoking whole entire pieces of a page of K2. And all at one hit. Big hits in the pipe. Bro, seeing God and all these crazy things happen, dude, right? So he says he has an epiphany one day. He thinks he's going to die. God came to him and he had a revelation. And from this point forward, he was doing things like sending all his money to church organizations, being naked in his cell, covering himself with a blanket, the woolly mammoth, buy drugs and flush them down the toilet, get high and accuse his friends of being Judas. He was really on some madness shit, bro. That K2 changed his personality, changed his life, everything, bro. It took a real warrior, a straight up solid cat, and brought him down to his knees, bro. Buckled. He's now got out. Since then, he went home. Shortly thereafter, while maintaining a respectable, people felt bad. They knew the warrior Boo Boo was. And the people that didn't know him and only met him as that, I feel bad because they didn't meet a great man, a great warrior, and somebody I respected and everybody else respected or feared as well. He goes home, robs a bank, threatens to shoot them, gets into a high-speed chase, crashes the whip, gets arrested, and he gets 15 years in the feds, where he resides till this day. Shout out Jason Nobles. If anybody wants to write to him, send him money, help him out in any type of way, I will get his information and I will try to put it in the description as soon as I can. If you would like to do so, leave a comment or whatever. For everybody who shows up and is listening to these stories, get ready for a whole month of the best prison content you've ever had. And that mean that shit. W number. Ow!